I started letting people know what I was doing when I was getting tired of being like that.
Have you ever wondered about the hidden battles behind Hollywood's brightest smiles? Well, these 20 black stars faced addiction's darkest grip, revealing stories of struggle, resilience, and redemption that shook the entire industry to its core. Number 20, Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is one of the most famous actresses and models of the 1950s and 1960s. Millions of people were won over by her beautiful hair, brilliant smile, and amazing singing. She became a Hollywood star because of her roles in movies like Some Like It Hot. Despite her glamorous image, Marilyn faced many challenges in her life. For years, she struggled with anxiety and sadness, which led to her use of booze and sleeping pills to cope. Barbiturates can make you feel relaxed and sleepy, but using them too much can be dangerous. Marilyn used them to help with her ongoing sleepiness, but eventually they began to cause problems. She often drank booze, which made things worse. Marilyn's actions changed as her addiction grew. She started missing meetings, arriving late at movie sets, or sometimes not showing up at all. Her once successful career began to decline, and directors and co-stars had trouble working with her. Fans knew about her struggles and still loved her, though, no matter what she faced. Marilyn unfortunately was found dead in her house at the age of 36 on April 5, 1962. The official reason was an overdose of barbiturates. Many people believe she died by suicide, but some think it might have even been an accident. Her death shocked the world. Marilyn's tragic story shows how even the biggest stars can face dark battles. But what happens when those struggles come too early in life? Well, let's talk about Heath Ledger. Number 19, Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger from Australia was a talented actor. His roles in movies like Brokeback Mountain and The Dark Knight earned him a lot of praise. His performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight is often regarded as one of the best in movie history. But Heath struggled a lot behind the scenes. Heath felt a lot of worry, especially after his strong performance as the Joker. He had a hard time sleeping and usually got only 2 hours of rest each night. Heath looked for prescription drugs like sleeping pills, medicines, and other anti-anxiety medications to help with the stress and trouble with sleeping. While those drugs are meant to help people, combining them or taking too many can be very dangerous. Heath struggled but still gave great efforts. His personal life was falling apart. To make his worry worse, he recently ended his relationship with Michelle Williams, the mother of his daughter. While filming his latest movie, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, friends and co-stars noticed that he looked tired and sad. Heath passed out in his New York flat on January the 22nd, 2008. He had sadly died before help came. He was just 28 years old. A toxicology report showed that Heath had mixed 6 prescription drugs, including sleeping aids and medicines, in a deadly combination. His death was ruled an accidental overdose. Heath's story is heartbreaking and shows how fragile life can be, even for the most talented stars. But what happens when these struggles take hold of someone even younger? Well, let's move on to another story that left the world stunned. Number 18, River Phoenix. One of the new young stars in the late 1980s and early 1990s was River Phoenix. River had the ability, charm, and a bright future ahead of him. He was best known as an actor for his role in Stand By Me and was nominated for an Oscar for Running on Empty. River was an excellent musician, often in demand for his dedication to music. River fought addiction, though, behind the scenes, a condition many others did not notice. What started as rare recreation drug use slowly turned into something much more serious. River was surrounded by people who regularly used drugs, and it became normal to him. Unfortunately, the pressures of Hollywood and being a celebrity only made things worse. On the evening of October the 30th, 1993, River went to the Viper Room, a nightclub in Los Angeles, with his fiancée and some friends. Even though the night ended sadly, it was supposed to be a fun evening. River had a seizure outside the club. That evening, he died even though attempts were made to save him. He was just 23 years old. River died, unfortunately, from an overdose of cocaine and heroin together. River's story is heartbreaking because he had so much potential, but addiction took it all away. What happens when someone turns to drugs after a different kind of pain? Well, let's look at Anna Nicole Smith. Number 17, Anna Nicole Smith. Anna Nicole Smith became famous first as a Playboy playmate and later as a reality TV star. Her strong personality and looks made her famous in the 1990s. Her marriage to J. Howard Marshall, an 89-year-old tycoon, drew constant media attention as well. Anna's daily life was quite ordinary. She experienced a lot of pain and worry, which got worse after multiple plastic surgeries. Anna began taking prescription medications like sedatives and painkillers to relieve the pain from her surgeries. She became more dependent on them as time went on. Instead of helping her, these drugs, however, started to control her life. Anna's addiction led to unpredictable behavior, and her issues became noticeable to others. She fought for control of her daughter, had some legal troubles, and dealt with reporters watching her all the time. She continued to appear on TV and in public, even though her health was getting worse. Anna fainted in her hotel room in Florida on February the 8th, 2007. She couldn't be saved, unfortunately, even after being taken to the hospital. Anna was just 49 years old. The autopsy found a combination of prescription drugs, such as stimulants and sleeping pills. Anna Nicole Smith's life was a cautionary tale about the dangers of addiction and the toll it takes. But what happens when addiction strikes someone at the height of their success? Well, let's talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman. Number 16, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Philip Seymour Hoffman was one of the most respected actors of his time. He is well known for his impressive talent and skill in becoming different characters. He got an Oscar for the movie Capote and was nominated for other films like Doubt and The Master. He gave outstanding performances in movies including Moneyball and the Hunger Games series as well. Despite his achievements, Philip struggled with addiction starting in his early 20s. During that time, he struggled with a heroin problem, but he was able to get clean and stay sober from that for over 20 years. He appears to have overcome his struggles for many years. Philip fell behind, though, in 2012. The pressure of being a star and his personal struggles pulled him back into addiction. He began using heroin again, along with other drugs. Even with the help from friends and family, addiction is very hard to overcome. Philip disappeared from his room in New York City on February 2nd, 2014. He was just 46 years old. The cause of death was a heroin accident. His house contained many bags of heroin and prescription drugs, showing that his struggle had intensified. Philip's story shows that addiction can affect anyone, no matter how talented or successful. But what makes these struggles even more tragic is how preventable they can be. Who else faced such challenges? Well, let's move on to more stories that shook the world. Number 15, Corey Monteith. Corey Monteith is best known for his role as Finn Hudson on the TV show Glee. He was popular with fans because of his friendly smile and talents. It looked like he had it all. Corey had a difficult past that troubled him throughout his life. At just 13 years old, he started using drugs. By the time he turned 19, his addiction had gotten so bad that his family decided to send him to rehab. Unfortunately, he struggled to stay clean, just like many others who have addictions. Corey faced personal struggles even while his playing career was taking off with Glee. In 2013, Corey went back to rehab to try to get his life back on track. Just a few months later, trouble struck, but his friends were still supporting him. Corey disappeared from a hotel room in Vancouver on July 13, 2013. He just turned 31 years old, too. Corey died, unfortunately, from a deadly mix of alcohol and drugs. Corey Monteith's story is heartbreaking, showing how addiction can strike even when life seems perfect. But what about a legend whose fame was unmatched? Let's talk about Elvis Presley. Number 14, Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was the king of rock and roll, and he was more than just a singer. He was one of the most famous cultural figures ever, known for his unique voice, movements, and charm. Songs like Hound Dog and Can't Help Falling in Love are still loved today. Being a star has its downsides, though. As Elvis became more famous, the stresses of his job grew. He starred in movies, worked continuously, and was always in the public eye. Elvis started taking prescription drugs like stimulants, sedatives, and painkillers to help him stay awake. At first, these things kept him focused and helped him manage his stress, but over time, he began to rely on them. The drugs started to negatively affect his health. His weight changed, and his ability became less consistent. By the 1970s, Elvis was clearly having a hard time. Fans noticed he looked tired and not very involved during his shows. He kept trying to hold on to the job he loved so much. Elvis sadly collapsed in his bathroom at Graceland on August 16, 1977. He couldn't be saved, even though they rushed him to a hospital. He had just turned 42 years old. Heart failure was listed as the reason for Elvis's death, but it was linked to the large amount of prescription medication that he was using. Elvis Presley's fall from grace was devastating, but he wasn't the only icon to face such struggles. Let's look at the tragic story of Judy Garland. Number 13, Judy Garland. Judy Garland is always known for her role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Her version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow became one of the most famous moments in movie history. She was loved for her amazing voice and acting skills, but her life away from the show, well, it was not very exciting. Judy's struggles began when she was a young worker in Hollywood. She was given drugs to help her stay awake and manage her weight because the studio wanted her to maintain a specific appearance and energy level. They gave her sleeping pills at night to help her relax. She started using drugs at a young age and quickly became addicted. Judy's problems got worse as she got older. To cope with the stress in her personal life and work life, she began taking more medication. This affected her job. She started arriving late to work and missing events altogether. Her shining star began to fade, but she kept going, playing whatever she could. Judy went missing from her home in London on June the 22nd, 1969. She accidentally took too many barbiturates. Judy was turning 47 years old at the time. Her death deeply affected her fans and shook the world. Judy Garland's story is a painful reminder of how the pressures of fame can lead to addiction. But what can we learn from these stories to prevent more tragedies? Well, let's explore the next. Number 12, Chris Farley. Among the silliest comedians of his day, Chris Farley was renowned for his crazy enthusiasm and humorous Saturday Night Live (SNL) routines. He made audiences laugh with characters like inspirational speaker Matt Foley. He starred in popular films including Black Sheep and Tommy Boy. Chris battled a serious addiction behind the laughing, though. Chris battled self-worth and weight issues from an early age. He turned toward drugs and alcohol as he became more well-known because of the pressure to keep hilarious and provide the kind of performances expected. Chris started drinking heavily and taking cocaine and heroin. It first seemed to feed his irrational exuberance, but it soon spiraled out of control. His addiction began to compromise his job, and Chris missed practices and was frequently late for work or arrived unable to perform. Chris struggled to quit, even though his friends and colleagues tried to support him. He visited rehab 12 times, but the grip of addiction was too powerful. Chris Farley vanished from his Chicago apartment on December the 18th, 1997. His age was barely 33. Heart problems played a role, but the cause of death was a morphine and cocaine overdose. His passing was shockingly like that of another SNL great, John Belushi. Chris Farley's story shows how addiction can take even the brightest stars. But his struggle wasn't unique. Let's look at the life of another comedy legend, John Belushi. Number 11, John Belushi. John Belushi was a brilliant comedian among the first group of members of Saturday Night Live, or SNL. he created a popular character from his loud and unpredictable comedic style. John solidified his reputation as a comedy legend by appearing in famous movies like Animal House and The Blues Brothers. As John became more famous, he also began living a dangerous lifestyle. Known for his strong work ethic, he began using drugs and cocaine. Even though his friends and co-stars often warned him about the dangers of using drugs, John ignored their advice. The wild parties became a big part of his image, and the people around him sometimes supported this behavior. John gave incredible shows despite his addiction. However, his health and reliability declined as the more he used drugs. His erratic behavior made it hard for directors and producers to work with him. His ability was obvious, and his fans really admired him. John Belushi went missing from a bungalow at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Los Angeles on March 5, 1982. He was 33 years old. The cause of death was a speedball, which is a dangerous combination of cocaine and heroin. His death shocked Hollywood and deeply affected his fans. John Belushi's life is a reminder that even the most talented stars can fall victim to addiction. But what can we learn from the stories of Chris Farley and John Belushi? Well, let's keep going to explore more lives affected by substance abuse. Number 10, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was a once-in-a-lifetime talent known as The Voice. Her remarkable singing abilities and powerful shows made her one of the best-selling artists in music history. She impressed millions with her songs like I Wanna Dance with Somebody and I Will Always Love You. She had a famous voice, but her struggles showed a much tougher reality. Whitney turned to drugs and alcohol to cope with the pressures of fame. What started as a way to handle stress became a lifelong battle with addiction. Even though she was very gifted, people noticed that she became less well known. Headlines began to focus on spy photos, canceled events, and erratic behavior. February 11, 2012, an icon passed away. Whitney disappeared from her hotel bathroom just before a major award presentation. She drowned, but drugs and booze played a major role in her death. Even though Whitney's downfall surprised her fans, her status as a music legend remains unchanged. Whitney's story shows how addiction doesn't discriminate. Even the most talented can fall victim. What about a rap legend who fought his battles with addiction from a young age? Well, here's the story of DMX. Number 9, DMX. DMX, whose real name is Earl Simmons, was a major figure in hip-hop. He became a rap star with his powerful style and straightforward words. Songs like X Gonna Give It To Ya and Rough Riders Anthem prove that he is one of the greats. Benevolent beneath the tough facade, though he was a man feeling unbounded agony. DMX began facing drug problems when he was 14 years old. A person he trusted tricked him into trying crack cocaine, leading to a lifelong struggle. Despite his fame and success, DMX often spoke about how addiction troubled him. His pain and suffering were just as important as the drugs. DMX was taken to the hospital in April 2021 after having a serious heart attack caused by a drug overdose. The news stunned supporters all around who hoped for his recovery. Sadly, DMX died at the age of 50 on April 9, 2021. Even though he is no longer with us, he is still remembered as a hip-hop star. DMX's life was a roller coaster of highs and lows, but he never stopped fighting. Speaking of fighters, let's look at someone who battled his demons while delivering unforgettable performances. Here's Michael K. Williams. Number 8, Michael K. Williams. Michael K. Williams wasn't only an actor, he was an incredible presence. He is best known for playing Omer Little on The Wire, where his skills added depth and complexity to every character. Whether it was Boardwalk Empire or Lovecraft Country, Michael's performances left viewers speechless. While he entertained millions on TV, he struggled with personal issues that most people did not notice. Michael started having problems with drugs when he was a teenager in Brooklyn. He used his drugs to escape from his difficult upbringing. As his work grew, He was able to keep his struggles away from the public, but addiction, well, it was always a part of his life. Michael shared his struggles, hoping his story could inspire and support others. In September of 2021, a tragic event happened. Michael was found dead in his room when he was just 54 years old. The reason was an overdose of fentanyl, a dangerous opioid that has taken many lives. His death surprised everyone in the entertainment industry and brought back discussions about the risks of the opioid crisis. Michael K. Williams showed the world the heights of talent, but his story also highlights the devastating grip of addiction. What lessons can we take from these heartbreaking stories? Well, let's explore the next. Number 7, Prince. Prince was a societal icon, not just a musician. He became one of the greatest singers ever with his unique style, incredible voice, and hits like Purple Rain and When Doves Cry. His talent was limitless, and he changed pop culture, dress, and music forever. Even heroes faced difficulties. For years, Prince suffered from severe hip pain and started taking prescription medications to help with the pain. What started as a way to control pain turned into his reliance on it. Being in the public eye made it much harder for him to get help. Prince was found asleep at his Paisley Park home on April the 21st, 2016, surprising everyone around the world. He accidentally took too much of the strong drug fentanyl. Fans were heartbroken by his death and started to realize the dangers of using prescription drugs. Prince's music lives on, but his story, well, it's a reminder how even the most brilliant minds can struggle. Speaking of rising stars gone too soon, let's talk about Juice WRLD. Number 6, Juice WRLD. Born in Chicago, Illinois on December the 2nd, 1998, Juice WRLD, real name Jared Higgins, lived a challenging life. He was a developing rapper and hip-hop artist. Because he could contribute real emotions with appealing melodies, his music, particularly appealing to younger listeners, connected with millions. Songs like Lucid Dreams and All Girls Are the Same made him well known and reflected a fresh set of musicians who freely discussed mental health and personal hardships. Songs of Juice WRLD frequently revealed his struggles with drug abuse, anxiety, and despair. His candor was much valued by fans who saw him as a representation of a generation facing comparable problems. He battled greatly with addiction, even with his success. Juice WRLD frequently discussed his battles with narcotics, particularly Percocet and lean, a lethal combination of prescription cough syrup and coke. He let others know about his suffering in a way that would have impacted them and made them near to him. Unfortunately, on December the 8th, 2019, Juice WRLD died away. He passed out at Chicago's Midway Airport following federal authorities discovering drugs and weapons on his private jet. Later on, it came to light that he had overdosed on pills and codeine. Juice WRLD was 21 years old, and the untimely death of this gifted musician stunned listeners and the music business, underscoring the grave consequences of addiction. Juice WRLD's honesty about his struggles touched many, but his story shows how addiction can take even the youngest stars. But what about those who fought back against addiction and found hope? Well, let's look at Samuel L. Jackson. Number 5, Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson is one of Hollywood's most famous actors, known for his great roles in movies like Pulp Fiction, The Avengers, and the Star Wars series. His undeniable charm and strong presence on screen have made him a global star. Before Jackson became famous, though, he struggled with a serious problem. Early in his life, Jackson struggled with drug and drink addiction. His addiction caused problems in both his home and his work life. In the early 1990s, he was using drugs heavily. This led to a critical moment when his daughter and wife found him passed out on the floor of their house after an overdose. That awful event became a significant change for Samuel. Jackson chose to resist the choice of either losing his family or seeking help. He went into rehab and promised to stay sober. Even though the road was tough, he channeled his struggles into his work. His acting career reached new levels because of his real and strong emotional experiences. He had a major role in Pulp Fiction, which made him famous shortly after he got sober. Samuel L. Jackson's journey proves that recovery is possible even after hitting rock bottom. But he wasn't the only star to overcome addiction. Let's talk about Mary J. Blige. Number 4, Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige, known as the Queen of Hip-Hop Soul, is a famous singer recognized for her songs like Family Affair and Real Love. Her strong voice and heartfelt songs have made her relatable to millions. Despite her success, she was struggling with serious personal issues. Blige faced challenges from a young age. As she grew up in a rough setting, she felt alone and was deeply hurt. To deal with her problems, she started drinking. What started as a casual drinking turned into a harmful addiction, though. At her worst, Blige said she drank a lot and felt stuck in a harmful pattern. Mary J. Blige had a turning point when she chose to rely on her faith. Instead of going to therapy, Blige found comfort in prayer, self-reflection, and focusing on improving herself. The trip was tough, but her strong desire to face her pain helped her overcome and become stronger. Today, she has been clean for several years and keeps inspiring others with her strength. Mary J. Blige's story shows the power of faith and determination in overcoming addiction. These stories remind us that recovery is possible, but the first step is always the hardest. Number 3, Jada Pinkett Smith. If addiction was a problem that affected your family, what would you do? Jada Pinkett Smith knows this struggle all too well. As she was growing up, she witnessed her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris, struggle with heroin addiction for 20 years. Although the encounter had a lasting impact on her, it did not protect her from her own difficulties. Jada became dependent on booze, not illicit narcotics, and she found herself spinning out of control. It began innocently enough, with a glass here and a glass there, and it wasn't long, though, until she was drowning in full bottles in one go. She was ready to open her third bottle of wine one night when she suddenly paused and questioned herself. "What am I doing?" she said. That moment struck her like a flash of lightning, she said. She concluded that she was on a perilous course of action and that she had to get away from it right away. Jada didn't wait until things became very bad. She stopped drinking cold turkey and has never gone back to it at all. Jada now uses her platform to have open discussions about addiction and the significance of being self-aware. Jada's story demonstrates that you can break the cycle of addiction, even if it appears to be a part of your family's history. Jada faced her demons, but what about someone who faced the crushing weight of global fame? Well, let's look at Naomi Campbell. Number 2, Naomi Campbell. What happens when the spotlight gets too bright? For Naomi Campbell, one of the most iconic supermodels of all time, the pressure to be perfect nearly destroyed her. She was the face of countless campaigns, a runway queen admired by millions, but the demands of her career, it became unbearable. Naomi turned to drugs to cope. What began as an occasional escape became a dangerous dependency. The turning point came in 1999 when she collapsed during a photo shoot. Imagine being at the top of your game, only to realize your choices are pulling you to the edge of disaster. Well, that's exactly what Naomi faced. Her collapse wasn't just a health scare, it was a wake-up call. Naomi entered rehab, determined to reclaim her life. With the support of her close friends and her own willpower, Naomi overcame her addiction and rebuilt her career. Today, she uses her story to remind others that even the most glamorous lives can have hidden battles. Naomi rose above her struggles, but what about someone who spent millions fueling an addiction? Brace yourself for the shocking story of Flavor Flav. Number 1, Flavor Flav. What does $5 million get you? Well, for Flavor Flav, it brought years of addiction and near ruin. The hip-hop legend, known for his wild personality and signature clock necklaces, spent up to $2,600 a day on drugs like cocaine. Well, that's more than some people make in a month, gone in just 24 hours. Flav's addiction wasn't just a habit, it was his whole life. He once admitted, "I wasn't living for myself, I was living just to get high. His substance abuse took a massive toll on his career, his relationships, and his health. It seems like there was no way out. But then came a turning point. Flav moved to California, away from the environments that fueled his addiction. He committed himself to recovery, fighting back against the demons that had controlled him for nearly 2 decades. Today, Flavor Flav has been sober for over 15 years. He uses his story as a cautionary tale, speaking to others about the dangers of addiction and the hope of recovery. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more intriguing content. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest uploads. See you next time.